Ferhat, Guven, you're with a global investment fund. What does that mean exactly? Where do you invest?
Paladin Realty Partners, we are a U.S.-based private equity real estate funds group focusing on emerging markets. So we have $5 billion invested in projects globally, primarily in Latin America, India, and we are now opening a new office in Turkey, which we actually opened a couple of years ago, and we're putting projects together there at the moment.
Why is Turkey a good place for you?
Well, Turkey in many ways reminds us of, or is very similar to some of the investments in the countries that we have a deep experience in Latin America, places like Brazil and Mexico, which 10 years ago were considered genuine emerging markets and now have risen to be global stars in the emerging market world. We sort of see Turkey as, at the same level of those countries for the following reasons. The first reason, and the most important, is of course demographics. Turkey is a young population. It's a large population of 75 million people, 2/3 of which are under the age of 35. The second reason is we are seeing, incredible growth in the country. With the last year excluded, Turkey has done very well. The GDP has grown at an average rate of about 6%. For the last 5 to 6 years, and we think Turkey will resume that trend, starting at the beginning of next year. The third thing that we like is it's a demand-driven market. We like to focus on markets where there's a strong local demand for real estate product, and Turkey is that sort of country where, today we see annual demand for real estate, approximately range at about 600,000 units per year. Only half of which is realized. So there's a real demand and need for foreign capital to come into the market to help subsidize and help complement the existing development activity that's going there in the market today. And because we're in emerging markets, the thing we like to focus on is housing, and especially affordable housing. And one of the things that excites us about Turkey today is just a couple of years ago, the mortgage product was introduced and formalized in the country for the first time. So, since that time, even during this economic downturn, we've seen volumes of $20 billion of mortgages be written in Turkey. Now, when you sort of look at this, compared to a country's GDP, in places like the United States and the UK, you have more outstanding mortgage to GDP ratios of about 50 to 60% in terms of the penetration. But in Turkey, that $20 billion today only represents just 3% of the GDP. So, we think that there's a potential growth upside where in the past, historically, homes and housing and real estate has been transacted almost entirely in equity. Now we're going to see sort of the introduction of mortgages, which we think is going to stimulate and accelerate that process as well. So we're very excited to be in the Turkish market, and we think in the long term, fundamentals look very good, and that's going to be an attractive place for investors to be.
What sort of deals are you looking at there?
As I said, we primarily look at housing, and when we say housing, it's primary housing, so not for the second home market. So we look at middle income, middle market housing where the bulk of the demand actually is, and we look in the large cities. So Turkey today has 18 cities with a population of 1 million or more. Of course, the largest city is Istanbul, with a population estimated between 10 and 15 million, depending on how you measure.
No one knows yet.
And then some of the other large cities as well, such as Izmir and Ankara. And sort of what we would call the secondary cities, which are the sort of 1 million to 2 million population-sized cities. There are cities which may sound new to investors, but to us, really look like attractive long-term places to be, and that's markets like Kayseri and Adana and some of the internal cities within Turkey, which we think are really attractive.
You just mentioned long-term. Is your fund kind of directed at long-term investment as opposed to medium-term?
Well, the good thing about housing, and this is a good thing, when you're an emerging market, long-term investments can be very risky. So one of the reasons why we focus on housing is because the typical cycle for a housing project is anywhere between 2 to 4 years. So it's a medium-term investment, and one is able to sort of you're able to forecast with some degree of certainty what the economy is going to look like in that period of time. We tend not to focus on the development of commercial projects because we think that's a longer time horizon, and given sort of the volatile nature of emerging markets, at the end of that sort of 6-7 year lifestyle, you're less certain about where you're going to be than, say, in a shorter term project. So we actually like housing. That's one of the reasons why we like to focus on housing.
I know that you consider political risk. Turkey, which has been trying to get into the European Union for a while, still seems to be kind of a long way. How do you assess that?
Well, I think for us, from an investment point of view, obviously Turkey getting into the EU is going to be an important step in the evolution of the country. But I think what's more important today is that we see that Turkey is taking the steps to become more harmonized with with European standards from the investment point of view, from the legal point of view. And to us, those are the key factors. And we have seen over the last almost a decade now, a government that has been committed to the principles of putting Turkey into getting Turkey into the EU, and also, trying to upgrade the standards of the country so that it's a more attractive place for foreign investment. So the EU is a goal, and it's a great goal to have, but but to us, the process is actually more important than the goal itself.
I know in many emerging markets, some of the Americans who go into them are people whose families came from that country. And from your name, I'm guessing that that's the case. Did you grow up in Turkey at all, or entirely in the U.S.?
My parents are both from Turkey. They immigrated to the United States a good 40 years ago. So I actually grew up in the United States, but have very close ties personally with Turkey, and my family has long-standing ties with my family and other reasons as well.
And you speak the language,
and
I imagine.
I speak Turkish as well.
Yeah,
which
which is helpful. Thank you so much.
Thank you.